They thought they could bully me into paying $30,000 for violations on a cabin they didn't even control. But when I dug into their own bylaws, I found the crack that would bring their whole corrupt WA board crumbling down. Stick around till the end, and don't forget to subscribe, because this isn't just a story, it's a blueprint for taking down the kind of power-hungry WA that thinks it's untouchable. It all started with a letter that looked more like a ransom note than an official notice. Bold red letters at the top screaming, "Final warning. Pay $30,000 or face legal action," and the name of the Ridgewater Lakes Homeowners Association stamped like it was some federal authority. At first, I thought it had to be a scam, because the property they were talking about, my little cedar cabin on Pine Needle Lane, was not only miles away from Ridgewater Lakes but also outside their recorded boundary maps by a good 3 townships, and yet when I called the number listed, a cold-voiced woman named Janet from compliance informed me in that condescending WA tone that my recent modifications violated architectural harmony and view corridor protection rules. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the phone, but then she said something that made my blood run cold. They had already placed a lien on my property in the county records, and if I didn't pay, they'd foreclose. To recover it, I drove straight to the county clerk's office, and sure enough, there it was, a fraudulent lien with my name on it, filed by their board president, Gregory Hawthorne, who, I later learned, had a reputation for targeting out-of-boundary owners in hopes they'd just pay up to make the problem go away. Instead of panicking, I went into full research mode, digging through county GIS maps, subdivision plats, and the HOA's own recorded covenants, conditions, and restrictions CC&Rs, which I got from a dusty binder in the archives. Not only did they have zero legal jurisdiction over my land, but their own CC&Rs had expired 5 years earlier because they failed to renew them under state law, meaning they didn't legally exist anymore. They were a ghost WA clinging to power by intimidation. I decided not to tell them what I knew, not yet, because I wanted them to go as far as possible so I could nail them in court. Over the next month, they escalated, sending inspectors to my property to take photos, claiming my dock was too long, my fire pit non-compliant, and my exterior paint unauthorized, even though my nearest neighbor was a half-mile of forest away. Then came the real twist. A friend in the county assessor's office tipped me off that Hawthorne had quietly redrawn the WA boundary maps in a proposed amendment filed with the planning department. But here's the kicker. It was never approved, never voted on by members, and blatantly forged with fake signatures. I hired a real estate attorney named Claire, sharp as a scalpel, who specialized in WA overreach cases, and together we built a case. Fraud, abuse of process, slander of title, and violation of state consumer protection laws. But before we could file, something strange happened. I got a visit from a soft-spoken man in his 60s, a former board treasurer, who told me that Hawthorne and Janet had been running an under-the-table, fine and settle racket for years, targeting retirees and absentee owners with bogus violations, and splitting the money. He even had bank records to prove it, because he'd been keeping copies, just in case. This was the smoking gun, and when Claire saw it, she grinned like a shark. We didn't just have a defense, we had the makings of a criminal case. We filed suit in county court, and the moment Hawthorne got served, the tone shifted. Instead of threats, I started getting offers to settle privately, first for half the fine, then for nothing at all if I'd just sign a non-disclosure agreement. I refused every one, and that's when the smear campaign began. Anonymous flyers in nearby towns claiming I was refusing to pay for shared maintenance, and endangering the community by keeping unsafe structures on my land. I traced the flyer print job back to a local copy shop, and guess whose credit card was used? Janet's. We added defamation to the suit, and by the time the first hearing rolled around, their whole defense crumbled under the weight of documents, maps, and testimony from the former treasurer. The judge not only dismissed their lien as fraudulent but referred the matter to the district attorney, who opened a criminal investigation into the board. The day the news broke, I drove past their WA clubhouse. It was padlocked, the sign out front removed, and a sheriff's car parked out front. Months later, Hawthorne was indicted on multiple counts of fraud. Janet took a plea deal, and the HOA was officially dissolved by the state. As for me, I not only kept my cabin but won a judgment for damages that covered my legal fees and then some. Now I sit on my porch at Pine Needle Lane, sipping coffee while the lake reflects the morning light, knowing that the next time some power-drunk wah tries to mess with the wrong person, they might think twice, because sometimes the little guy with the right evidence can bring down an empire built on fear.